Odu, Iboya, Ibuche, everybody in cyberland. It's very Babalawo. At least I hope so. Omo Odun, Odileke, coming at you with another great video. But before I begin the video, I would be remiss if I did not say, one, happy belated Father's Day, and two, we are celebrating in the United States of America, obviously our second independence, right? The first one was from Britain, which we talk about, 1776, Declaration of Independence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And then we talk about the abolishment of slavery, right? Which is something else that happened in the mid 1800s. So when we talk about those two events, Father's Day and Juneteenth, is how we refer it. I want to say there's a lot of time for reflection, a lot of good moments to sit back and pay attention on what's going on in the world. Focus on the victories, not necessarily on the defeats. Don't let the past haunt you, but let the present guide you so that you know where you're going for the future because you are number one. So with that said, always got to give thanks to my dad who's passed away, Sarafin Mendez, Ibaba Enterun. May he rest in peace. My godfather, Oshedura Miguel Alves Barrera, Ibaba Enterun. May he rest in peace. To my father figures today, my godfather, okay? People Okanatura, right? I love you, Padrino, with a lot of love there. When we talk about, the fathers in my life, I have a lot of folks that are fathers. I got a lot of aleos that are fathers. I have God brothers and God sons and God daughters that either have fathers, are fathers, a lot of different variables in the sense of father. So ultimately, at the end of the day, thank you. So let's get into it. All right. As we begin to roll into this next segment, I also want to make mention that on the YouTube channel, on the community tab, and I know I posted it on Facebook and Instagram. I said, hey guys, I'm looking for that next topic. What does the next video need to look like? Something that's educational, something that's instructional, because I think that right there is the key, right? Let me hear from you instead of just trying to figure out what is it that's best going to capture the lesson of the day, the lesson of the week, the lesson of the month, because it's important. It's important. But hearing from you, I decided to go ahead and go back into the old box of tricks and from the old segments, for those of you who have heard it, right? Help me help you. I'm going to talk on Odun today. And I asked my wife, I said, what's a good Odu? And she said, hey, let's go with Ogunda Iwori, right? And we like to play that game, right? We have to look and see who's actually asked for an Odu, when did they ask, and then I tell her, I said, hey, let's gamble. First come, first serve works, but this time I decided to kind of just throw it out there because this is a really good sign, and man, I really wanted to talk about it. Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's jump right in. So Ogunda Iwori. Ogunda Iwori Ifa Oldafun Olokun Kafarafun Shango. Okay. That alone right there, I gave you a verse out of Ogunda Iwori. And I said, Loldafun Olokun Kafarafun Chango. That right there needs to already signal that there is something special with this sign. There is a spiritual path for this sign that leads directly to Chango, who is the king of Ocha, and Olokun, which mysteries extend beyond all spirituality. That's deep. That alone is deep. And that's the reason I said that one particular verse that comes out of that particular Odu. In addition, in order, and not to get, cliche, with great power comes great responsibilities, right? And this is why in Ogunda Iwori is representative to the scissor. right? It's a very strong representation of the sign, to the point that we sometimes even take that representation and are able to use it into our daily works of life. And it's because Ogunda Iwori is showing us the way through that particular tool, the scissor. But as we look at a scissor, we understand that we're talking about two sharpened sides that come together in order to create a common goal. What is it trying to create? A cut, right? What is it trying to do? It's cutting. But in order for it to be effective, in order for you to get a clean cut, what do you need? You need two sides that are equally sharpened. You need two sides that can overlap with each other. So for the Ogunda Oworis in the world, let's start giving you some advice. You need to find balance in your life. Ogunda Iwori struggles with finding the balance and keeping both sides of the house right. That's one. Look at a mirror, okay? Reflect on your character, because Ogunda Iwori typically has a flaw of some sort that they need to internalize and fix. Don't fight with me about it. Just find it, right? Don't get mad because I'm calling you out on it. Just find it. Because you are Ogunda Iwori. There is something that is lacking. Maybe it's humble, maybe it's tact, maybe it's, how do work on my relationships? Because that is a major piece of Ogunda Iwori too. In Ogunda Iwori, the person struggles with the relationships. In Ogunda Iwori, you notice how this is a scissor. I remember back in the day we used to make little puppets, right? You used to go like this and you make a little dog, right? And that's the mouth. Same concept. Look at the scissor. Kind of looks like a mouth. Let's just think about that for a minute, right? Your mouth, as you talk, gets things going. Sometimes in good and sometimes in bad. Ogunda Iwori, you don't have the gift of gab. That's just something that we have to be honest with. So you have to be careful on what you say. Therefore, you got to be careful that you're not offending. More particularly, you got to be careful because your tongue could be a razor. It'll cut through people. You're very good with the sly remarks a lot of times. And if you're not, you're very good at manipulation. Ogunda Iwori, you got to look at those aspects of that Odu, right? And you got to remind yourself, if this is not how this is reflected for you, then that means that you are living in a good equilibrium, right, with the energies around you. That means that now you just take those warnings, you say, man, I got to be very careful because I'm doing a good job, right? So therefore, I don't want to fall into this type of osolbo, this misfortune. That's only going to bring pain and misery, right? So we want to be very careful on how we are enacting and focusing on odus. As you continue to kind of see Ogunda Iwori, we understand that Ogunda Iwori is when you see the beginning of that sign Ogunda, you understand that there is something to do with impulses. You have something to do with a very emotional reaction to things, which is probably why, if anything's gonna get you in trouble, is your mouth, it's your words, it's your tongue, right? Is you talking, and you got to be careful. There's always that old saying that you should probably listen before you talk. You probably need to listen twice and then really think about it and then talk. That's important, Ogunda Iwori. Very important. I would even tell you that in Ogunda Iwori, this reminds me of a Bataki that was once told to me about how Eshu approached the farmer and was asking the farmer for some yames because he was a very successful farmer, had plenty of yame. And the farmer was like, nah, I'm not doing it unless you pay me. And she was like, man, but we hungry out here. Okay. So Eshu started to spread the rumor that the king's men were going to come down and they were going to burn down the farm because they needed to create a pathway through his farm. And the farmer was so arrogant, so angry, right? That he heard it and he said, if anybody's gonna cut this out, it's gonna be me. And he went and he burned his own farmlands. And When the king heard about it, the king obviously he inquired. He sent his messenger, etc., etc. And we get to the point where the king is like, I never declared anything of that such. And they began to see that it was Eshu and his mischievous nature that created that. But why? Well, because the man who had plenty and didn't want to share, even when he saw something that he could have done in order to hold a higher ethical and moral standard in that situation, he chose not to. And because he chose not to, that caused the problem and that caused Eshu to act out. That's why in this sign, for anybody who's Ogunda Iwori, it's very important for you to take care of your Eshu. Very important for you to ensure that you are receiving the issues that you need for your Odu. You're receiving the issues that you need for everything that you receive. Ifa is really good at making issues for anything and everything. So make sure that you and Eshu are tight, tighter than thieves. If you own a business, get an issue for your business. All those things matter, and I want to make sure that I'm preaching that to you so that you understand. In addition, in addition, um, Ogunda Iwori is a sign where we mentioned it earlier, where Olokun is very pivotal in the success of this sign. Olokun. So that means that you have to receive the Olokun of Ifa. Ifa is the one that's technically marking it in your Ifa. But more importantly, you're going to receive an Olokun of Ifa, but you should probably go get crowned, get the Olokun of Ocha as well, to give you a complete balance, right? Balance, two sides of equilibrium with Olokun. And I know a lot of people, you start to wonder, well, why do I got to receive two Olokuns? There's only one Olokun. How is there's two? Why do I got to get one from Ocha, one from Ifa? And I would tell you that they're built differently and they're designed differently. They're built for different purposes. They're not necessarily built for the same thing. And for Ogunda Iwori, who has a problem with prosperity because Eshu will be the one that creates your roadblock, I would personally receive both of them. And I would advise you to do the same. Receive the E5 one first, and if you go get crowned, you receive that one, and then yeah, you're good to go. Don't worry too much. With that, we understand that a Olokun carries with him his own taboos. And I want to tell you, in Ogunda Iwori, stay away from pork, especially if you're a child of Yemaya or Olokun. Right? Stay away from the pork. It'll save you one day. Allow it to do its thing. Don't water it down by consuming it. Okay. Now, we talk a lot more about Ogunda Iwori in the aspects of the physical sense, right? The physical sense of things. Because in Ogunda Iwori, a lot of your illnesses come from fibroids, come from tumors, breast cancers, things like that. Why? Because no different than the words that provoke action and provoke things to come to be, your body begins to provoke things for its own self that causes harm. A tumor is a growth. A cancer is something that gets into, depending on where it comes from and where it goes, is starting to develop itself through the bloodstream, through the bone. You name it, it's happening. And that's something you got to be mindful about. Fibroids, if they get big enough, they pop. If you can remove it, remove it. Your body even reacts to Ogunda Iwori in certain ways that you have to be conscious about. So again, with Ogunda Iwori, it's a lot of power, a lot of greatness, right? A lot of stature, but comes a lot of responsibility. You got to be mindful of those things. In Ogunda Iwori, I would even tell you that, because of the character flaws that lead into arguments and leads into problems, it's very important that you cherish your relationships with your family, your spouse, your children. Learn how to talk to them. Learn what right looks like. Compromise. All those things are going to be staples to your success. You have a lot of great things and ability to do things. You gotta make sure that you reinforce those concepts. It's important. As we begin to continue through this stage of Ogunda Iwori, you begin to kind of also learn that Ogunda Iwori is where the very first time, this is a very interesting fact for those with Ogunda Iwori. Back in the day, the old people, right? If they got a hold of your picture, right? They were able to do some brujeria. There's a lot of people out there that can do some pretty nasty things with your picture. In today's day and age, in 2023, I will promise you, if you're tuning into me, it's because I can probably tune into you. I could probably see your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, or whatever it is that you are rolling with today, social media wise, that there's probably a picture of you. Undai Woody, take all your pictures down. I'm not saying you can't be on social media, but you are giving the ammo to your enemies to put in the gun to shoot you. The photography in Ogunda Iwori is what they use to destroy you. It's your picture and the weird brujeria things that they're gonna do. Don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. Take your pictures down. Be careful who's taking your picture. Be very mindful of those things. In addition, we understand that in Ogunda Iwuri, there is a sense of darkness, right? Not a bad darkness. It's a sign that walks in certain depths. Olokun is the Orisha, right, of the deep oceans. And only Olokun understands the secrets of the deep oceans with some selective few that worked with Olokun, right? But it's very dark, right? And Ogundai Woody, because even this shows you how close the association is, that the eyes are very important. Don't look directly into the sun in order to avoid damaging your eyes. Very important. That's how close and tied in you are to a local. Now you understand why I'm telling you. Just get both for locals and don't worry about it. In addition, in this sign in particular, I would tell you that you have to be very mindful about how you approach situations with specifically with your spouse and children. And I know I mentioned this a couple of times, but I kind of reflect on it. Why? Because I remember talking to an elder about Ogunda Iwuri at one point. And, the world is a lot smaller than we think, believe it or not. And people talk and they'll say, oh, yeah, I know a guy who's Ogunda Iwuri, et cetera, et cetera. And this person put his children in foster care or abandoned his kids or just kind of just called it quits, right? In Ogunda Iwuri, you just can't do that. That is an osobo that will haunt you. You got to find out, how can you work hard to ensure that your children are successful. I know that's a hard thing to do, but we all want, as parents, our children to be successful. And sometimes our children make it harder or they make the wrong decisions. But you should never give up. Never give up. Very, very important. In addition, right, I would tell you that, Ogunda Iwuri, for being Ogunda Iwuri, I said a lot of things. In particular, I even, talked about the mouth. I said, hey, be careful what you say and what you provoke. But Ogunda Iwuri has a lot of ache, a lot of blessings that come with it. Not only because it gives him pathways to Chango, which allows Ocha and Olokun, which allows Ifa, but more importantly, to receive two Olokuns and a lot of blessings that come with that. But Ogunda Iwuri is a sign that of prosperity if you do it right. Of you and Eshu being thicker than thieves if you do it right. You receiving the right Eshus for different situations that have to deal with business or law, very important. Understanding that your flaws are relationships means that you got to work harder at those relationships, which means that you will be successful if you just do what you're told. In addition, I will even say that you have to, at one point in time, consider your professions. If you're young enough and you can be a lawyer, be a lawyer. You'd be surprised how successful Ogunda is when they can debate in a trial, or they can go to a courthouse and say what they want to say, right? Or be a politician where your mouth cuts and it cuts deep, but it has impact. And sometimes you need that type of impact. But when it comes to friends and family and those who are close to you, what you truly need is truth, humility, right? Honesty. That's why you got to be careful to even the profession that you pick, because Ogunda Iwori is really good at some of those professions that like to play in the gray and talk through things and have a chip on their shoulder about winning every argument. That's Ogunda Iwori, but uh it will not give you success in your relationships with your spouse, with your kids. So be mindful of that, okay? Be mindful of that. And then I'll leave you with this. Stay entertained, okay? Ogunda Iwori is a sign where Ogun got bored. And when Ogun got bored, things did not go very well. So I tell you this with the hopes that you are seeing this Odun for what it is, and I have given you some insight. Now, disclaimer, and I should have said this in the beginning, but I'm not going to do this video again, right? Is I am not a substitution for your spiritual house. I am not a substitution for your godparents. I am not a substitution, because there is a lot to an Odu other than what you see. A lot of frosting on the cake, but how does it correlate with your guardian Orisha? How does it correlate with your prophecy? How does it correlate with a lot of things is important. And you got to always remember that. So hopefully this was beneficial for everyone who needed some deeper understanding on Ogunda Iwori. And with that said, Iburu, Iboya, Ibucheche. Looking forward to seeing all your comments on this next video. And with that, you guys have a great night.